Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Curated Knowledge. I'm here with my co host, my wife, Annie. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
So, today we're going to unpack a few of the interesting stories that are happening in the kind of futurism space and how they might be impacting our daily lives. I'm actually looking forward to some of these topics and getting your opinion on them. The first one I wanted to talk about today is on 3D printing artificial cartilage.
Ooh, okay.
As someone with knee problems, I think you'll find this rather interesting.
That's immediately what I was thinking about is my crackly knees. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. The intention here is that they're using 3D printing technology to print cartilage tissue. And they've tried to do this before, but the big issue has been that they haven't been able to get multiple cells to combine into a uniform combined tissue that they could actually maybe implant in a person to kind of help them out. But the Vienna University of Technology has been able to successfully do this. And the first thing that they basically said was, hey, with this and other biological 3D printing technology, we could see hearts, blood vessels, cartilage, and they're already talking about bone tissues being 3D
Ooh,
printed to help a bunch of people and make sure that there's no rejection from the body.
that is really cool. And like I as somebody who's probably going to need knees at some point in my future, yeah, the idea of having something that is made from yourself that you're not going to reject sounds really awesome.
I agree. I
Mhm.
think one of my issues with these kinds of technologies, though, is we typically hear about them, and then 10 years later, we hear about how they've continued to advance, and then 10 years later, we hear about how they've continued to advance, and then 10 years later, we hear about how they're finally having human trials. Medical
Mhm.
technology always seems to take a really long time, doesn't it?
It does seem to take a long time, and there's things that we hear about that never actually come to fruition, and that's also really disconcerting and disappointing sometimes, like the teeth.
Yeah, like the teeth. Do you see this technology as something that you would actively be interested in exploring if it was available to you today?
Yeah. As it stands, I have for those of you who don't know, which is pretty much everybody, I have, dislocating knees. I've had them since I was a young teenager, and I was supposed to get knee surgery at the age of 16, and instead they decided to use immobilizing braces on my knees instead. And I've managed to not need knee surgery yet, but I do have floating pieces of cartilage inside my knees, and they make a lot of noise, and they still dislocate from time to time. So the idea of having a surgery to put something in my knees to take away the pain, take away the noisiness, and provide better cushioning than what my knees currently have. Yeah, I would definitely go under the knife for that.
Yeah, the first person I actually thought of was a family member of ours who has like a version of degenerative disc disease in their spine, and how
Mhm,
this
mhm.
technology could potentially be used to improve their quality of life and extend the good side of the quality of life that they could have.
Yeah, and that's way better than any sort of, like, injections that they could get with, like I know that some people with TMJ or jaw issues will get, like, Botox injected into their joints to be able to add that extra bit of cushioning, and I know that, like, they can do, like, nerve blockers and things like that in the back, and those are short-term temporary fixes, but this could be something that's more long-term, and with it being things that are actually, like, grown from you, there's less rejection and less risk, potentially. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, but I assume that there is.
I think that is supposed to be the idea for sure. So, the next story I wanted to talk about, I'm actually going to shoot you over a link on Facebook Messenger. It's a
Mhm.
YouTube video of a new piece of energy generating technology. I say new, but it's not super new. It's the Dragon 12 tidal energy kite. It looks like an airplane with
Okay.
kite strings attached to it, anchoring it underwater. As the tide comes in or out, it flies back and forth like a surfer moving at a right angle to the flow of water. This special underwater flight pattern allows it to extract more energy from tides than most other systems. It has a 12-meter or 39-foot wingspan and weighs no less than 28 tons. So it's not tiny.
Hmm.
I just,
But it's cute.
yeah, I love the idea of an underwater airplane that generates electricity.
That is, and it's super cute looking. I know it's probably not as little as it appears on my screen right now, but it is. But I mean, okay, my question is, what does it do to fish? What does it do to whales? How do they interact with it? And what are the, dangers and hazards of it? It is adorable.
I unfortunately I don't currently have any of the answers to your questions. I think that you are right
Mhm.
that the ecological side is very important,
Mhm.
but from a power generation side, I will say that this system, the Dragon 12, will have a levelized cost of energy around 108 US dollars for the first 100 megawatts that they install. And they're hoping after that they can get it down to around 54 US dollars per megawatt. And to put that into
Oh.
context, that's more expensive than solar or wind, even at that lower rate, but it's cheaper than
Mhm.
nuclear and could compete with some coal and gas power plants.
Nice. And it looks like they're thinking of installing it somewhere north and Europe-ish in the Atlantic Ocean? Question mark?
Yeah, you're
I'm
correct.
not good with geography. Okay.
Yeah, the first installations look like they're going to be in the Faroe Islands,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of tidal pressure there. So this will allow it to generate more energy than if they put it into other places. And of course, with all of these technologies, they're looking for locations that have, a large amount of tidal change. I will say
Mhm.
one of the cool things about tidal energy, though, unlike solar energy or even wind energy, is the tides happen twice a day thanks to the moon no matter what. There's no cloud cover that stops the tides. There's no stopping of the movement of the tides. They're pretty much always moving at a regular pace that you can always count on. So this
Mm.
could be a renewable baseload energy source in the future.
Yeah. I wonder, what about storm swells? Would they still be able to function during storm swells? Because I know, like, with wind, when the wind is blowing too high, they have to, like, hunker down and stop the turbines from turning. So would that be an issue in the oceans with, like, giant storm swells?
I don't know well enough, but I would say that from the little I do know, the speed of movement on the surface level due to like storms and wind and things like that don't necessarily translate to the deeper ocean. And like I said at the start, this will be anchored deep underwater, so it
Mhm.
might not be impacted. But I don't have the answer to that today.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I'm a big fan of any kind of renewable energy source that we can make work, and
Yeah.
there's been a bunch of different tidal energy programs that we've watched videos on or read articles about over the years.
Mhm.
And the big question mark always seems to be the impact of the ocean on that technology. And I don't know that even this company has completely figured that out yet, because the ocean is relentless, right? That's why we want to take
Mhm.
advantage of the moving of the tides, is because it's always moving. But
Mhm.
that constant moving has a pretty strong impact on the technology that we can create today, and the ocean and its salinity, and
Mhm.
the ability to transfer that energy to other places, right? So places that have these high tidal effects like the Faroe Islands, they're not super close to the heavily inhabited areas. Getting that energy
Mhm.
from north of the United Kingdom, or I guess north of Scotland, all the way down to somewhere like London would require some big power lines that would potentially be inefficient and lose a lot of that energy
Along with
generation.
that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's always my concern with tidal power, but I'm hopeful that we'll see this start being installed in a lot of different places, and we can actually get a good calculation on what the value proposition actually looks like.
Mhm. And, as you mentioned, like, if we have more renewable resources going, then when something does need to be taken offline for whatever reason, there's other things that can back it up and take care of that burden. Where, if we're only relying on non-renewables, it's going to be far more burdensome on our planet in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
You will be happy to hear on our third story, though, because The US Energy Information Administration has released a report that shows that in terms of installed energy generation capacity in 2024, the US will get 58% of those projects will be solar.
Hey,
So
nice.
more than half of all projects in 2024 to generate electricity in the US will be solar. The report actually oddly includes batteries as energy capacity. I guess not energy
Okay.
generating capacity, but energy
Yeah.
capacity. And
Yeah.
between solar generation and battery storage, that will make up 81% of the energy projects that will happen in 2024 in the US.
That's really cool. That's a huge number that's gonna be, solar and sustainable, hopefully. And I wonder with that many projects, that's not saying what their total, like, power generation is. So I wonder what the total generation of those projects would be, like, of their total energy consumption and generation, what the amount of renewable will be at the end of these projects being done.
Yeah, I can't speak to how much there'll be total, but I can say that the planned solar installation for this year currently looks to be about 36.4 gigawatts out of a total of 62.8 gigawatts of additional power that they will be adding in 2024. Again, when they talk about gigawatts, I don't know about you, but it doesn't really have any meaningful value to me. Like what
I think of Doc Brown. 1 point whatever 1 gigawatts, and that's what I think of is, time travel and Doc Brown and DeLoreans. That's what gigawatts makes me think of. So yeah, not really any concrete, real idea of what that is. Just
yeah.
sci-fi.
Yeah. One of the other cool things about the report is they talk about wind power in 2024, and it will be a further 13% of the installations of energy generation with 8.2 gigawatts of energy generation, taking the entire thing up another 13%. So 94% of energy generation capacity being installed in 2024 will be what we call like traditional renewable energy.
Mhm.
And then another 2% will be nuclear. And
Okay.
so out of the remaining, that's about 4% will be natural gas, wah wah,
Mhm. Eh.
and only 0.2 gigawatts or less than a percent will be quote unquote all other.
Okay. Hmm. All other. It's still sad to me that here we are in 2024 and they're starting up projects with coal. Even if it's only, a tiny percentage, it's still, come on. Come on. Come on.
The, yeah, I agree with you, and it's always concerning when we do that. And even natural gas isn't necessarily the best power generation solution
Mhm.
for renewable or like for our world going forward. But they do point out this is the least new natural gas capacity being added in over 25 years.
Okay. I mean, that's good.
It's a
The
start.
least new. Yeah. It is. I mean, we I guess baby steps are what we need to do, right? We can't expect everybody to change tactic all at once and the world to change overnight. That's not realistic. And there is more need for power than we have the capacity to do renewably right now for whatever reason, be it resources or money or whatever. But yeah, like I guess the big positive there is just how much of it is actually going to be renewable. And I don't know how I feel about nuclear. I it, I don't want to live close to a nuclear plant. I know we kind of do, and sometimes I think about, like, if that were to go nuclear in the fallout, it would suck.
Yeah, I will say
Yeah.
that it is a relatively safe way to generate power. My issue with
Mhm.
nuclear is just the turnaround time to actually build these reactors, get them certified, get people comfortable with the idea that they're there, and
Mhm.
generate meaningful power for society. And I think that, even as we are moving towards the idea of fusion, which is even more safe than the nuclear fission plants that we have today,
Mhm.
I still think that those regulatory delays will make it a non-starter for the energy transition that we need to have over the next 20 years,
Yeah.
which is a shame.
It is a shame, and I hope that it happens in a way that is safe for everybody. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but like, yeah, there is so many options that are available to us if we open up our eyes and open up to the possibilities. That we don't need to just continually go back to the same old, same old.
I completely agree, and I think that's a great place to leave this episode. Thank you so much for joining me on this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening.